Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Thank you for coming back, and new people, welcome. Today I'm delighted to welcome Raj Khedun, who is from London, in the UK. He's manager at Keep Fit Kingdom, with a mission to help 1 billion people reach 100 years of age happily and to realize the healthiest version of themselves. Well, they probably had to be pretty healthy to make it to 100, I should think. He's an avid wellbeing and transformation coach, and he's specialized in relationship coaching for 15 years. His 3-3 Metaverse Breathing Method is pretty amazing. It dramatically reduces stress and anxiety within 1 to 3 minutes, and it's proving to be highly effective in healing insomnia. And apparently Raj's infectious energy uplifts everyone because he's excited to make a positive difference whilst helping people fulfill their potential and make dreams happen. And you can find Raj and his work on 3-3, that's the digits 3-3, insomniahack.com, insomniahack.com. So Raj, that's built you up. So now you've got something to look up to on the show. Thanks very much for joining me.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome, Catherine. High expectations. Let's see if we can deliver.
Exactly. Fantastic. So Raj, on the pre-call, we had a fascinating conversation. And one of the things you shared with me is that you actually came into life with a pre-existing connection with evolution. Now, that's a first. No one's ever shared that with me before. So would you like to just kick off by sharing a little bit about that and what that means to you?
Absolutely. So it all started when I was 3 years old. And my mother takes me to nursery for the first time to get enrolled. We check out the playgrounds, the classrooms and everything. And then we end up in the library. And the first 2 books I ever pick off the bookshelf in this life was one about dinosaurs, the first one. That's where the evolution part comes in. And the second one was about planets. And for whatever reason, Catherine, the images of these books are so deeply embedded in my mind. I can remember it even like it's yesterday. It's that impactful of a memory. And strangely enough, these images, these ideas have guided me more so than my entire education. And what a blessing, because as strange as it sounds, being fascinated by dinosaurs was a way for me to question evolution. And how does the evolutionary process work between one creature and another? Like, how do you evolve from a crocodile to a dog, and then a dolphin, and an elephant, and so on, higher up the chain? Because as you know, the higher up you go on the chain of evolution, the more sentient, the more communicative, the more cooperative animals become. So it was fascinating to me to think, where is this chain? I don't see it with my physical eyes, but something's going on in the background where this process is happening following a predictable chain. And that just fascinated me. Then I started asking the question, can humans evolve their brains then? Can humans evolve themselves if they want to? And that's where the whole crazy ideas about what is the brain, what's the capacity, who are we, why are we here? All these questions started kicking off. So I hope that helps to answer your first question.
Fascinating. And isn't it extraordinary how very young children are sometimes right on the button of what really is important without realizing?
Yeah.
You know, and thank goodness nobody talked you out of it and said, no, what you should really be looking at a book about trains or something. Or
Thomas the Tank Engine.
Thomas the Tank Engine, honestly. That's got a lot to answer for, in my opinion. But yeah, fantastic. And didn't you talk about having this incredible meeting in India with somebody who was talking to you about that connection that you had?
Yes, I have to kind of preface that by saying, the 2 books, the dinosaurs and the evolution and the planets, was again another thing that most people they're on the fence about. I'm not sure it's out of my purview, of my range of understanding. I don't know why we have other planets. But for me, again, it was another thing that I couldn't let go of. Because I was thinking to myself as a 3-year-old, okay, you have Jupiter, massive planet, king of the planets, spinning at 47,000 kilometers per hour, right? What? Okay, then you've got Saturn with the rings, and then you've got Mercury, and then you've got Venus, and then you've got Mars. And I was starting to think, on Mars, I mean, you can go on YouTube and look at the NASA channel on YouTube. And they've got the rovers on Mars exploring Mars, and they have had for quite a few years. And you can see there is no water on Mars. There's no plants. There's no dinosaur bones of any kind anywhere to be seen. So I'm thinking to myself, why is there an empty planet next to us? Yet Earth is full of life from top to toe, from the birds in the sky to the, whales and fish in the sea, which is countless variations of manta rays and stingrays and octopus and all kinds of amazing creatures. And then on the Earth itself, on the landmass, 8 billion humans. And all the food and all the minerals and all the construction materials to build houses and all the rest of it. How is it that Mars has nothing and Earth has everything? It just boggled my 3-year-old little brain. So I had to kind of dial that in as an extra dimension to kind of broaden the scope a little bit, if that makes sense.
So tell us who you met in India and what happened in that conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So I was 18 years old, and my mother says, would you like to go to India? She's a bit open-minded spiritually. I'm like, India? Why would I want to go there? Like, it's full of strange things and mystics and people who stand on one leg for 500 years and all kind of weird stuff. Why would I want to go there? And she kind of like tickled my curiosity a little bit. But wouldn't you like to see it? I mean, you've lived here all the time, and I'm very interested for you. And the funny thing was, it triggered a memory of Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, the film. Because when I watched that film as a youngster, maybe I was 7 years old, 8 years old, I really loved the fact that he was an archaeologist and an anthropologist, and he went to India to uncover some mystical artifacts and some, mystical, mythical, ideas and statues and things like that. And that kind of got me excited. So I said, okay, well, I'll frame it in my mind like it's an adventure. So I'll go on an adventure. And because I was quite a bratty, obnoxious teenager who had everything materially, I took everything for granted. So I go to India thinking, yeah, this is just going to be a adventure. Let me do my Indiana Jones thing. And all my preconceptions about India were completely flipped upside down. Because I'll go to India and I meet this avatar, right? Avatar, just for people who are not aware of what that is. It's like you have Netflix's show Avatar Last Airbender, where they have all these shape-shifting powers over the earth, water, fire, air, and so on, ether, and so on. And you have James Cameron's blockbuster films, Avatar films. And I thought all this was nonsense, like woo-woo and just silly. I go there, India, and I meet a full power avatar. And I'm like, what is this? And he says to me, you know why you're here? I'm like, I'm the one who brought you here. I know all the books you're looking at as a kid. I know all the questions you're asking yourself. And I'm like, what? How is that possible? You don't know me. Like, you couldn't know me. He's just like smiling. He's just smiling. Son, I'm the one who brought you here. And you don't know anything about life because you read a few school books and you think you know about life. And I'm like, what is this? Am I dreaming or what? And he said, you don't know why you're here. You don't know where you came from. You don't know what life is all about. You don't know what happens when you die. And you don't even know how this earth was made.
And you're like, I'm 18.
Yeah, I mean, what? And he's like, son, you need to be humble. You need to learn. learn? I already read a whole load of books at school. I took a load of exams already. I'm clever enough. No, son. No, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. What is this? Like, did my mum like what did she contrive some weird plan and the cosmos is against me now? Like, what's going on? And what happened was he knew what I'd done in my past life. And he was trying to wake me up and say, look, son, this small stuff is not for you. You already got hordes of knowledge and wisdom from your past life. And I want you to waken that back up and use it for humanity. I'm like, me? I'm an obnoxious, rude, bratty teenager. Like, well, there's nothing special about me. He goes, no, son. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. So I felt like my ego and my whole life was just, I was smacked literally in the face, and I was floored. And I was upset because I'm thinking, why doesn't anyone talk about these things? And he said, son, us avatars, we this is normal for us. We know everything. Don't be overwhelmed by that. What's important is that you perform your mission. Right? And I'm like, okay. He says, son, the most important things in life are unconditional love, wisdom, compassion, patience, and kindness. I'm like, well, if that's so important, why don't they talk about that in school then? So he says that avatars, that they don't gatekeep anything. They're here to serve humanity because they can't stand to see humans suffer. It's not part of their true identity. They're not supposed to be suffering. Okay, this is kind of overwhelming. Like, you tell me this? Like, should I feel happy or should I feel sad or depressed or what? So, but what he said, there's something about what he said and his energy and his presence I could not fight or argue about that. Couldn't. Because everything he said made perfect sense, even though my mental conditioning being brought up in London didn't conform to that pattern at all. So after that, I went into monk mode for 10 years. 10 years. I cut off literally everything. Newspapers, TV, eating processed foods, KFC, McDonald's, all that nonsense. I became vegetarian. I didn't even go out on dates with girls. All my friends were doing that. Parties, discos, weddings, whatever. I cut it all out for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite extraordinary.
Yes.
Did your friends think you were bonkers?
Totally. But we watch films. You like kung fu films. You like all these Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and you love this. I do. I still do. But because I had to cut. I had to put some time to dedicate to what he's saying. This to do with my future. This is important to me because I remember as a kid I was looking at the dinosaurs and the planets and wondering about them a lot. And he knew that. He knew that was for a reason. It wasn't in vain. So then I started having a deep epiphanies and started thinking, well, children, they have dreams when they come on this planet into life. They have dreams. So are they supposed to fulfill those dreams, or are they supposed to let them sit by the wayside and let life and all its problems and relationships and all that stuff encroach on their mental, emotional bandwidth and then forget their dreams? Like, what are they supposed to do? So I was one of those people who said, look, I just need to study and I need to sort the wheat from the chaff and say, okay, what is it that I need to focus on? What is true? And what's the universal themes of life that apply to everyone? Not just me, not just my family, not just my neighbors, not just my country, but what is universally true for all humans? That's what I knew I had to focus on. And thank God I did.
And what did you discover?
We're all just there's just two things that exist in the entire cosmos: energy and consciousness. Energy and consciousness. That's it. Everything else is a variation of that. Everything. And once you understand that, if you can get to that vibratory level or frequency, then you see that it's just a programming that you have. The template which the Almighty has provided us with, the body and the mind and the brain, it's all perfect. But what conditioning, what programming have you got going on in your mind and your brain to make you act and react to life as it is in front of you? That's the key. So energy and consciousness.
Incredible. Beautifully put. So very, very exciting path. And I just want to congratulate you on actually being open enough to meet this person and engage with them. And that's a real bit of practice, that 10-year period. And during that period, were you studying anything particular or following any particular practices? What were you doing in that 10 years to help you on this journey?
Yes, I studied the most esoteric books and scriptures from Tibetan Buddhism, the Buddha, Jesus Christ, Kabbalah, Sufism from the mystical traditions of Islam. Because I knew there was some good stuff in there, but I just didn't. I needed to know the inner circle knowledge of the Sufis more so than the exoteric outer knowledge that everyone can find in the Quran. So I studied that. I studied Hinduism, of course, Vedanta, the home of yoga. I had to go deep into that. Because as you know, as everyone who's even, a tiny bit spiritual will know about the chakras and Kundalini. And is this real or not? Is this truly the evolutionary axis that determines your entire perceptual experience, or is it not? Because you'll never hear one whit about that in the Western school system. Of course not. They're not going to teach you that. But then I realized, oh dear, it is all true, in fact. So like, oh gosh, okay. So, from that point of view, you have to reorient your entire life, your consciousness, your energy towards these fundamental truths. And people, I can tell you also, I studied this guru, Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yeah. Yogananda, yeah.
Yes. I think most people have sort of read his autobiography of a yogi. And his teachings affected me profoundly because he's the same as the avatar that I met in India, whose name is Sri Satya Sai Baba, who I interacted with.
And so to this will know of Sai Baba or will have possibly even traveled to India and met him potentially.
Yes. He was just celebrated his 100th anniversary with all the celebrations going on globally. But yeah. So his teachings affected me deeply. And then I realized that they're all drawing me to this, on this side, towards, the truth of consciousness and energy. And people always ask, what about reincarnation, Raj? Because that's a massive topic. How are you going to navigate that? And I also had to go deep into that to realize what is the mechanism in the psyche, in the subconscious mind and the superconscious minds that determines what life experience you're going to have, depending on what you're focused on. What energy patterns are you focused on mentally to manifest certain results or certain lifestyle? So that was a hard one to reconcile because most of us don't come into life with a clear memory of what we did in our past life. So we have to think and meditate and dwell and think and meditate and dwell and think and listen deeply before we can grab a clear picture. This is what resonates with me. This is my frequency. This is my vibration. Now, once you grab that, you have to cut everything off, like most other things, off. Strengthen the seed of that vibration, of that picture, that image. And then everything else will go around that. Like Stephen Covey said, first things first, right? So put the rock of your faith and your life path in first, and then all the other little pebbles and sand and water can fit around that. But if you don't put that big rock in first, and you put all the little things like the sand and the water and the pebbles, and then you try to fit the big rock in, it won't fit. So that's where most people's lives, unfortunately, becomes very messy.
Yes.
So they haven't got
Yes.
things.
And it can feel like it can feel like a conflict when you try and bring in the big thing, the important thing. So I think you did well, didn't you, kind of connecting onto this quite early on, quite young,
Yes.
because you hadn't fully formed who you were as an adult and what you were doing with your life. So you had this kind of basis. So you presumably came out at the other end of this 10-year period,
Yes.
now 28 years old.
Yes.
And how did you then manage to kind of align what you're doing in your life and what you were doing in your work with these explorations?
It was always a challenge. It's been a challenge for a while, because as soon as the Western narrative, with all respect, we have to appreciate both Eastern side of life and the Western side of life. That's needed. But when you come across the health services, you come across psychologists, you come across the banking system, you realize there's this strange hidden control mechanism which does not allow you to fully embrace your potential. So to give you an example, Catherine, I remember having a conversation, and I have many conversations with doctors because I love to challenge how far they go with health. And because if you ask the fundamental question, who owns health? What is health? Big one, isn't it? Most people in their incarnation, they will never get to that. Why should I ask that question? Well, the NHS will take care of it if I'm sick. No, they won't. No, they won't. You have to take care of it. So I would ask doctors about the involuntary nervous system and the voluntary nervous system. And they would say, well, Raj, you're not supposed to interfere with the involuntary nerves. I'm saying, well, that's not what the yogis say. Because in order to control your heart rate, your lungs, your brain capacity and function and optimize yourself, you need to interfere with the involuntary nervous system. And they're looking at me like, all getting nervous and confused. Well, look what the book says. Look what the book said. Look, you see? I said, but who's that? Who said that? Oh, some PhD guy in 1960s. I say, well, does he know how to control his involuntary nervous system? Well, I don't know, Raj. I don't know. That's not for us. But are you a human or not? Yes. Well, why don't you question it then, at least? And they get a little bit upset, right? And the reason why we would have these conversations, I respect everybody where they're at in life. It's fine. But the reason why doctors and I would have these amazing conversations, because I'd say, look, 25 years, I've not been ill once. 25 years. Not had a flu, cold, a headache, a migraine, not had an x-ray, an ultrasound, a hospital visit, or a GP visit for 25 years. And I don't take medicine, right? I think, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? I said, it's so simple. It's easy. And like, how then? I'm like, look, what you think is the air around you, it's not air. It seems like air. And in the school books, they tell you, 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, and so on and so on. But to you as a human, you don't care about that. What matters to you is the benefit that you can derive from this, not the features, the benefits. Okay, Raj, what's the benefits? Okay, well, first of all, the components of this air, this space, is light, electricity, and magnetism. Light, electricity, and magnetism. Now, when you harness and channel this through the brain, through breathing methods, you start to enliven and enlighten a lot of your brain capacity that you never saw before, that you never knew even existed. Now, a lot of people have these fantastic philosophical and spiritual debates. Like, well, why do so few humans use, why don't they use much of their brain? Because they've not been taught how to do that. And why is that? Oh, because you're in a Rockefeller 9 to 5 wage slave idea. They don't want you to become powerful. They don't want you to become autonomous. They want you stuck in the system. I'm like, how complicated does this get? When you go down the rabbit hole, you realize, oh, hang on. So the Almighty of the universe owns everything, including us. He designed us. He owns everything. But he wants his children to be happy because we're all his children, right? So if he wants us all to be happy, why should we lack health, wealth, and happiness of relationships with our wives, our moms, our dads, our kids, our neighbors? Why are we lacking happiness in abundance in all these things if it belongs to our Father? Then you start realizing, because the system wants you controlled. It's trying to straitjacket you into a limited idea of yourself. But then you say to yourself, well, what if I don't want? What if I don't accept that limited idea of myself? Then what? Well, then you're going to be a revolutionary then.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
rebel.
In your own life. Yeah. And you were talking about the programming we have in our minds, where it restricts. The thing about breathing is very interesting, isn't it? I think I've had lots of conversations with people who are just not conscious of their breathing, that the breathing just happens. Would you like to tell a bit about these incredible methods you've found with breathing?
Absolutely. So it's like, when people go through a midlife crisis in their maybe 30s or 40s or 50s, some tragedy happens as it always does in life. And you hit a wall and you're like, what have I been doing all this time? Why am I thinking that way? Why am I behaving that way? Why is things not going well? And you have to retroactively look at your life from the beginning and say, there's something fundamental I've been missing, isn't it? What is it? What is that? And you've been hoodwinked by a society, by a materialistic culture that has deliberately distracted you away from your fundamental nature. So this is why we have to learn these basics from the beginning. So what was your question again? I want to get back to that.
It was about these breathing methods that you developed. I'm really interested in hearing about those, and I think the listeners would love to hear about that too.
Absolutely. So the basics is, as you know, as a child, you breathe this light, electricity, and magnetism into your system. So when you do that, you strengthen your nervous system and your immune system. And you can do that to such an extent that there's no end to it. You can expand yourself and your capacity and your power and your memory and your brain function. There's no end to it. You can expand as much as you want. But because you're not on that trajectory, you don't have the fundamental building blocks. You don't realize if it's worth it or not for you. But it definitely is. So the breathing methods that I practiced, all the traditional ones from Vedanta, the yogic system, like you have alternate nostril breathing, you have breath holds, like what Wim Hof also teaches. You've got the rapid breathing, bellows breath, Bhastrika breath, they also call it. Kapalbhati breath, which is another softer kind of breathing. But then the 3-3 dials in the best of all in a very simple, easy, smooth, rhythmical manner that almost anyone can do. Anyone who's living and has a brain and is breathing can do this. A couple of contraindications are those who have their extreme hyperventilation or panic disorders. We have to be a little bit careful with putting them through a process. But everybody else can do this. So to answer your question, you find how these breathing methods affect your energy, your personality, your feelings, your emotions, your moods, and how they also help your intellect to expand, right? So we all have infinite amounts of energy and consciousness, actually, all of us. But you have to start using the breath to understand the dynamics of how it works in your brain, in your nervous system, in your physiology, to fully appreciate what this is. So does that help to answer your
Yes, that's brilliant. I mean, I appreciate it. It's difficult to sort of start and stop with some of these ideas because all these things you're talking about are all connected to each other.
Yes.
So talking to you, I can feel like, have you written a book, Raj?
I have. I have written 2 books. One called How Squats Can Change Your Life. And and you might be asking, what? I thought you're the spiritual guy. Why are you talking about squats? And
You know,
I'll tell you
squats
why.
can be very squats are incredibly important. Yeah, very empowering. But
Yes.
I'm just kind of acknowledging that, you know, because a couple of times in the conversation you said, "Did that clarify? Was that, you know?" And I get this as well sometimes if I'm a guest on a show and I just start talking about the thing and then I suddenly, oh my God, am I still on the same planet as the host and the listeners? No, you are right on track. This is fascinating, wonderful stuff, and I love this work you're doing, and it's very interesting that you focused in on the breath, because obviously that's fundamental, and as you say, everyone apart from the panic disorder thing can do it. So, how do people engage with that with you, and when you're working with people, what kind of ways are you working with people and helping them?
Well, we could do a short, compact session if you want, and just to
Well,
show you.
open to it, why not?
Of course, of course.
Shall I
And
just
I'll
say to everybody, don't do this if you're driving?
answer. Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, but just
Put down put down the pan, turn off the stove.
yes, yes, be in a safe place, absolutely.
Yeah.
But just to touch on your question there, they reach because I've been doing relationship coaching for the best part of 15, 16 years now, women all over the world. There's no relationship problem that I haven't come across or that I haven't solved in most cases. So relationship coaching and coaching in life overall in terms of anatomy, health, diet, I do all of that. So people reach out to us online, on WhatsApp, email, and so on at the website that you mentioned earlier, and also keepfitkingdom.com as well. And they go through some coaching. They buy some of the books that are available on Amazon, for example. And that's kind of the start of their journey. So, do you do any breathing methods yourself, Catherine?
Um, yes, although I'd say it's more kind of intuitive now. Um, so that would probably be quite a long answer if I got into that. But yes, I've done a variety of formal breathing practices, and now I just use breathing as part of what I do, and just as part of my life. So, but I do include breathing a lot when I'm working with clients. We do quite a lot of meditations that include breathing, along with visualizations and a moving of energy round and round in the body. So I do work with breathing quite a lot.
Interesting. Good. What do you find? Are there any particular methods or techniques that you find work particularly well with you? Do you find or not?
Using the quality of attention, I find very important and valuable. You know, take your attention here, and also using the power of creative imagination. You know, see or feel this happening. You know, so you're like bringing it into perception through imagining it into being.
Yes.
And what I'm generally doing with that is I'm talking about it as if you're imagining it into being, whereas I can see it is actually already happening, but our perception doesn't necessarily realize it's happening.
Yes.
So if we pretend it's happening when it already is happening, there comes a place where those two things meet, and then suddenly it's like, oh, that was a great experience. I've not had that before. And actually, no, you've been having that experience all along. You just didn't recognize it until you gave your mind permission to allow your senses to tune into it and perceive it. So I'm incorporating quite a few things together
Yes.
when I'm doing these things.
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay. Let's see if this makes any sort of marked or noticeable difference to you.
Yeah.
I'll walk you through it. Let's session. So what we do first is we just check in with ourselves. You can close your eyes if you want, and just check in with yourself, see how you're feeling. Just tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you feel right now? 1 is terrible, 10 is amazing. What would you say?
10.
10. Awesome. Wow.
Well, I'm having a really nice conversation with an amazing human being, so
Thank you. God bless. Do you normally say God on your podcast or not? Or is that like...
Saying God is completely allowed.
Oh, it is. Okay. Awesome. God bless. And if we check the nostril flow, you can open your eyes if you want, but just block the right nostril and breathe in and out a few times at the left. And then switch over. And tell me if they're balanced 50-50 or if one is more open than the other.
I would say one is maybe 10% more open than the other.
Okay.
I've done alternate nostril breathing before in yoga classes.
Yes. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Some people have a deviated septum, or they might have had a nasal injury, and it could be quite drastic, the shift in nostril flow. All right. So in the 3-3, I'm going to have to make the sounds verbally because Zoom cancels out sounds like breath sounds.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can navigate. I'm sure we can. So I'll make the sounds verbally, but in truth, when we do it, we don't have any sounds. So it's just a breath sound when we actually do it. But I'll just do it for the sake of the listeners. So sniff, 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 like you're sniffing a flower in 3 parts. Like sniff, sniff, sniff. And then was an elongated exhalation on the third step.
Okay.
There you go. So sniff, sniff, sniff. Then yeah, nice and relaxed and gentle and soft. Nothing too vigorous. Yeah. Sniff, sniff, sniff. And then Sniff, sniff, sniff. Ha ha ha. Yeah, so it's ha ha ha. So the ha, the extended one, especially comes from the back of the throat to activate the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
You got it?
Very good. It's very good.
Yeah, I'll show you what we'll do.
Feel it affecting the energy.
Really? Okay, what we're going to do, Catherine, we're going to do it together for 1 minute with the eyes closed.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to talk you through the physiology. Okay, with the eyes closed. 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, let's stop there, Kath. And just keep your eyes closed and relax. Just gently feel what's going on within. Yeah, when you're ready, Catherine, keeping your eyes closed, tell me what you notice and how you feel.
So first thing I noticed was that each time I did it, everything began to slow down, which spread through my body. Um, I noticed like a lot of warmth in my chest, and like sort of gold and red energy in my torso.
Mhm.
Um, I feel very refreshed, calm, and joyful.
Excellent. Did you feel any gentle pressure around the forehead area or around the brain, prefrontal cortex? Any like sensations, pulsations, anything like that?
Well, I didn't notice anything during, but when you asked the question, there's definitely a sort of a tingling feeling um, in the head.
Uh-huh.
It's a pleasant feeling. A bit like, it feels almost a bit like there's a sort of a very light current running through it, very gently, almost like a gentle breeze.
Well said. Yeah. Okay. And have you noticed your heart rate slow down a little bit?
It's definitely slowed down, yeah.
And the mental chatter that we have, a lot of people in this day and age with, ADHD mind or monkey mind, racing thoughts. Have you noticed that slow down a bit?
Well, that wasn't really happening before we started because I was focused into being here with you. I mean, I'm fine when I'm hosting an episode. I don't get as much of that chatter because I'm focused in on what I'm doing. I'm kind of in that zone.
Yeah.
So, but I think if I wasn't in that situation, then I would have noticed the difference in that regard.
Sure. Sure. Do you feel you're in a flow state somewhat?
Yes.
Is that pleasant for you?
Yes.
And are you, I know you're already familiar with certain breathing methods and so on, but did you find it as fairly quick for a 60-second practice in terms of what you feel afterwards?
Yes. It's a very, it's like a quick hit. It's a very quick effect.
Yes.
It's a very well designed practice, in my opinion. It's n- it's not shocking to the system at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yes.
So what it means is, to me, it felt like it had a very strong kind of uplifting whilst also grounding and softening and flowing effect. It's interesting. It has both of those at the same time.
Exactly.
But very quickly and also very securely. There's no sharpness to it. There's no shock to it.
Correct. Exactly. And that's why, what we designed it for the modern person as a quick, easy reset. Even if they don't want to be yogis, they don't necessarily want to be spiritual or religious, but they still need something to help them sort of reset or regulate the nervous system quickly.
Yeah.
So it's still, it's still very helpful for them, even if they don't want to meditate for a long period of time.
Absolutely. And if they do, this would definitely support that process.
Yes.
Which would be beautiful. Well, thank you very much for leading me through that. That was just lovely.
You're welcome.
I get so many treats being a podcaster. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Raj, before we run out of time, may I just say I've so enjoyed your story and what you're bringing, and I can only imagine that you are really fun and helpful as a relationship coach. I can just imagine you being really great for that. And God knows we need some good relationship coaches in the world at the moment. There's all sorts of challenges going on. So, and it just a real delight talking to you. I'm just going to remind people of 33 insomniahack.com, which is the digits insomniahack.com. And Raj, if you send me the Amazon links for your books. I'll pop those in the show notes as
Sure.
well.
Absolutely.
Very happy to do that. We've talked about a lot today, and it's been so fascinating. For you, has there been a favorite part of our conversation today?
Well, I know as humans in this world, we're restricted to time, but we just scratch the surface in terms of the levels and depth and the dimensions of being. But I love the fact that you were open to listen to the Avatar story, because that was the most unique, tremendously, magnetizing, inspiring, uplifting event of my life. And I want to share that with as many humans as possible, because unfortunately, not everyone gets to meet an avatar like that. So, I'm happy for you to have gone into that and been open to what that could mean in terms of all of your listeners and for yourself, and to understand the true nature of what it means to be a human and the wonderful, wonderful powers we have yet to tap.
Yeah. Well, it was a privilege to hear about it, and I feel it's a gift when people share these things. So there's no how can I put it? I almost don't feel like I don't need to be thanked for that, but I appreciate the thanks for that. So beautiful. So one other thing I'd like to ask you, which is there something you would like to say to people in the world who are trying to be helpful and working on being part of the solution? They might be leaders or parents or teachers or community leaders or avatars, whoever they might be in the world. In this moment in yourself, is there something you feel moved to say to those people?
Yes, very much so. I mean, our mission, as you spoke at the outset, help 1 billion people, be healthy and so on. But really, what we're doing now is helping people get their sleep back. So to overcome insomnia and sleeping disorders, which affect 1 billion people on the earth right now. So what we're trying to encourage people to do is get back to your fundamental nature, which is peace, joy, and bliss. Peace, joy, and bliss. I don't think anyone on the planet could argue with that. But you need to have, construct a lifestyle that supports the flourishing of peace, joy, and bliss. So that's the kind of underpinning message principles I would leave for all leaders, corporate, medical, and so on and so on. That's
Beautiful message. I love it.
Thank you
so much. Now, do you want to leave the listeners with some sort of reflection question that they can take away? Like a question they can meditate on over the coming week?
Yeah. I would say try to think through what are the most important areas of life. And the wonderful thing is that some people, they can learn it by reading books and reflecting on it. But I want to help people understand there are 5 areas of life. There are 5 key ones. One is health, and then there's wealth, and there's relationships, then there's mind power, and then there's your connection with higher power, God, spirit, divine mother, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's good to reflect on the key areas of life. And then once you've dialed that in for yourself, understand it's the same for everyone else.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Raj. It's been such a pleasure.
Been awesome.
So thank you so much, everyone who watched and listened today. And if you did practice that little breathing practice there with Raj, and if it was lovely for you, maybe do it again and maybe tell your friends about it. And definitely everybody go and check out 33, I'm going to read it off the thing, 33insomniahack.com, and check out what Raj is doing, because it's very powerful work, very beautiful work, and none of it's overly, intensely serious. It's also with lightness, which is so, so beautiful. So, and you can find me and the show on truthandtranscendence.com, and you can find all my work. If you like something about my energy and my presence, you might want to go and see about how to work with me on beingspace.world. So thank you again. Have a fantastic week. And thanks again to Raj.